Presidency, Mr. Fincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Chairman, thank you for your service and for being here today. I'm going to read a paragraph for my benefit, probably more than yours, to get started in a couple of questions. The Federal Reserve was intended to be a fully independent central bank and monetary authority. The authors of the original Federal Reserve Act did not want to subject the institution to the whims of politicians, but rather set clear objectives for the institution in the interest of fostering macroeconomic stability. That independence has eroded significantly since the 2008 financial crisis, when the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department initially took coordinated steps to stabilize the economy. One persistent concern, that is the central bank's independence, is infringed upon by the government. Fiscal authorities can compel the Fed to monetize sovereign debt. A couple of questions. With what has happened with quantitative easing, I was looking at the Dow a few minutes ago, 15.4, NASDAQ 3604, and 1680 for the S&P, to Chairman Hensarling's comments earlier. I think the private sector is addicted to the government money. And anytime you talk about cutting the money off, there's a panic. Because we have our own currency and we can manipulate that currency, unemployment where it is, inflation where it is, with the entitlements in this country where they are. I'm saying a lot here, but will we ever get back to that place of unemployment to 5%? I live in a part of the country, in a rural part of the country, a lot of farmers, a lot of ag, real estate. We've seen land prices go through the roof. And one reason I think we have is interest rates are so low that people that can borrow money, it's there. But that causes problems also, because if this thing ever does turn around, how do you stop it? And interest rates are how you stop it. But the country also is in debt up to their eyeballs, which creates another problem. High interest rates breaks the back of the country. So I said a lot, but are you concerned that pumping the money into the economy, when we stop that, can the country take it? Can the private sector react? And how do we do that?
Well, the reason for the low interest rates is because the economy is weak and inflation is low. And even if the Fed wasn't engaging in asset purchases, interest rates would still be quite low, as they are in other countries, for example. One reason that asset markets react to what the Fed says is that they're trying to determine whether the Fed will provide sufficient support for the economy to get back to full employment. That's our job, that's our mandate, is to try to, when the economy is away from full employment, is to provide the financial support that will move the economy in that direction.
Do you not think the politics over the past 4, 5, 6 years are playing more of a role than they did 6, 7 years ago?
No, I don't. And your earlier point about collaborating with the Treasury and the financial crisis, that had nothing to do with monetary policy. That had to do with the two main financial institutions in the government working together to prevent a big financial collapse. And I think the collaboration was needed there. But at no time during the crisis or at any point did the administration, the Congress, or the Treasury Department ever tell the Fed, we need monetary policy of X. We have always maintained that independence, and we think it's critically important that we maintain it.
I've got about a minute left. I fear that the government's intervention into trying to make sure the private sector is running at full capacity creates all sorts of problems. Now that I'm up here and I see how big this is, I had a constituent the other day who brought this point up, and he said, with the regulatory policies that we have, with the choking effect that some say, the big government is really good for big business, the unintended consequences, because the big businesses can react to big government. The smaller businesses have a harder time doing that with the resources they have. And, I thought about it a minute, and it's a great point. Again, I'm fearful that we're out of control, pumping the money in. The private sector is addicted to the pumping of the money. And when we ever shut that off, there's going to be a reaction. The reaction, that the stock market is 15,000. If we drop back to 12,000, again, you're going to see a panic. What do we do then? The government, and so many people, Chairman, think now that the government's role is to step in and save the day. And this is taxpayer money. This is very, very dangerous.
Well, there's this sort of idea going around that the Fed can step away and not do anything. We have to do something. We have to have interest rates somewhere. I mean, the Fed does control our money supply, so we have to do something. And I think that we're better off trying to get the economy moving than not.
Thank you. Thank you.
Time of the gentleman expires. Chair recognizes the gentleman from Illinois.